You're on location in Oahu with Peter Sellers.
Sorry about that.
Was the chair.
Ah.
I wanted to point something out about you because there are stories that your career began when you were carried on stage at the age of 2 days by your music hall parents. What did a performer at 2 days old perform, other than...
Well, I think that story is, has been distorted out of all. The truth of that, as far as I was told, and I can recall from my parents, who told me about it later, well, naturally they would, was that one of the shows that my grandmother had, one of the revues that my grandmother had, was playing, was playing in a town, and my mother was pregnant at the time, and I was born in a local nursing home, and one of the members of the cast, because she'd been in the show and she knew them all very well, and one of the members of the cast, I must have been about 3 or 4 days old then, when she came out of the nursing home, took me on the stage that night and said something to the effect that the producer's daughter has had a little boy, and we all hope he's going to follow in his mother's footsteps and his grandmother's footsteps, and then sort of slung me into the orchestra pit, I believe, or something like that.
All right, if that was...
And I bounced back, and I've been bouncing back most of my life.
Since one of your early jobs was as a call boy, will you define for Canadians just what it is to be a call boy?
Call boy, you go around knocking on doors of dressing rooms.
Yes.
Telling people that they have 15 minutes, or usually you give them 15 minutes to go. That means a 15 minutes to curtain call. I've done lots of jobs. I've done also, I've torn tickets in half for people entering the theatre. I've swept theatres out. I've done line boy. I've been a line boy. That means you work the front of house focus spots, you know. Yes. It's a theatrical term.
Peter, what was Ralph Reeder's gang show that you toured in?
I got, during my time in the services in the RAF in the Second World War, for a period I managed to get in with the official RAF concert party, and I toured around with them, with Ralph Reeder, with the show, number 10 show. Entertaining, which was really what I was anyway, and it was much better than the job I was doing at that time in the RAF. So it was a means of getting back to England from India, where otherwise I would have been stuck in India for another 2 years. So I got away with spending nearly 3 years in India, not 5, you know.
How long was it after that before you were at the windmill with Harry Seacombe?
Oh, good time after that, yes. In 1948. Seacombe had left the windmill by that time.
Why were the girls in that show always weren't they referred to as the statuesque nudes? They weren't allowed to move? Wasn't there some law?
In those days, complete nudes. So that means they're completely nude. They weren't allowed to move. And the Lord Chamberlain's office, which doesn't exist any longer, forbade that they move. Now, you could be partially dressed and move around and dance, you know, show their tits and everything, and that was fine. But they weren't, you know, full frontal things were required to stand still. Many, they don't stand still for much, you know, for very long when the curtain goes down, I can tell you that. So many people, my very first time, oh, I must tell you this, I thought fame at last. I was having a drink in a pub, the Lyric pub, right opposite the Windmill Theatre. And he'd been there a week, and a man came up to me and he said, "You're Peter Sellers, aren't you?" He was a sort of fellow about 50, 60, and another red, flushed look. So I said, "Yes." I mean, nobody knew my name, never heard of me, nothing, you know. So, yes. He said, "I was just across the road watching the show just now, and I saw your act, and my gosh, I really enjoyed it." So I was absolutely, oh, you know, did you really? He said, "Yes." He said, He thought you were so good, so original. Oh, I said, very kind of you. He said, let me get you a drink. I said, well, I've got one, thank you. He said, no, let me get that. It's remarkable. I thought you had something. Oh, well, this time getting really thinking, hey, somebody likes me, He said, tell me, your part where you come on in the show. I said, my act, you mean? He said, your act, yes, of course. He said, but just before your act, there's a scene, gypsy encampment. What's the name of that girl that dances without any breath? I tell you, it's shattering, it's shattering.
Ryan will return with guest Peter Sellers on location in Hawaii and more of The Revenge of the Pink Panther.
We know post facto because we can see the film work you've done, whether we talk about the early British comedies and the phenomenal success of The Mouse That Roared or I'm All Right Jack, but I wonder sometimes what the actor's motivation is in, for example, you turned down Sir Carol Reed and playing Fagin in Oliver. Why did you turn down that role?
Well, I did that because of my admiration, my undying admiration for Sir Alec Guinness. You see, I thought Alec's portrayal of Fagin in David Lean's Oliver Twist was the ultimate one. I don't think there was any way that one could have... I was also offered Richard III at the Windmill Theatre to open not the Windmill, the Mermaid Theatre, after Olivia had just done Richard III on the screen too. I was just missing too late. It's like the composer who composed Tea for Three. The one just wrong. I found that, where were we? What were we talking about?
Why you had turned down playing Fagin and Oliver.
Fagin, that was it, yes.
Respect to
It's not always
Alec
like
Guinness.
this, folks. It's just that we've been here quite a lot since this morning and going a little bit round the bend at the moment. But never mind. But yes, it was out of respect. No, not out of... It was just that I felt that whatever I could do with Fagin would be a copy, because Alec had done the ultimate, you see. There was nothing left to do. He was one of Boz's drawings, out of the book, out of Dickens' books. He was Fagin. And to do that, it would have meant copying Alec. And I wouldn't want to do that.
All right, I'll accept that, but then why did you turn down John Frankenheimer's invitation to do The Fixer? There was no precedent. It was an original novel by Malibu.
No, well, that was for a different reason. That was because I didn't think it was a suitable subject to be made at that time. I may say I was proved right. And I think Frankenheimer was wrong to embark on it. And after a lengthy walks along the Via Appia in Rome, we spoke of it. I said that I really didn't feel that I should do it, and I get very worked up about these things, and I'm very interested in the films altogether, and every part of the filmmaking process. And I suggested that he gave it up too. I tried to talk him out of it. Yes.
Let me offer a quote of yours, and we can establish whether it's apocryphal. Someone quoted you as saying that an actor like Cary Grant can sell himself as Cary Grant both on the screen and off, but I have no personality of my own. I have to put on a special voice and use it as a shield so that a character can grow behind it. Why did you choose Cary Grant as an example?
Well, he seemed an obvious example, shall we say. Who of the present day actors can we say come into that category? Who would you think now? Who plays himself on and off? Well, I suppose you might say Ryan O'Neill in a way.
Is that a compliment?
Well, it seems to me that Ryan O'Neill in private life is the same as he plays on the screen.
But I thought if you meant examples of what one had in the past of Gary Cooper, Humphrey Bogart, James Cagney, I understand. They were Gable.
Well, that's right. They were personalities, and they were playing an extension of themselves. And the reason I quote Cary Grant is because I became to know Cary well. and found that he was everything I expected he would be in private life. He spoke like he does on the screen, and I wasn't disappointed because I'm an autograph hunter, really, basically, deep down. It takes me all my time not to get the old book out and say it's not for me, it's for my sister. You know?
You mean it when you say you're a child of the cinema, and as a child you attended 2 or 3 times a week?
Oh yeah. Believe me, I really, I've got all the old screen nags. I really am, and I have been an autograph collector, and I have been in many situations where it's taken me all my time not to ask for them, you know.
May I ask for yours?
Oh, sure.
I have to thank you for being with us.
Oh.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Ryan Linehan on location in Oahu with Peter Sellers.